Very good morning. I am Aditi Lama with the Sunday night edition of South Asian News, Vision of Asia. We are coming to you from our studio in New York City. Welcome to the show where we bring you the top picks of the week. Looking at this week, we saw several coronavirus updates and measures detailing much on the possibility of another surge of the coronavirus with COVID-19 variants spreading all across the nation. The vaccination programs are wrapping up to match the demand of COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. More than 2 million vaccine doses are being administered each day, and AstraZeneca's vaccine emergency use authorization can further speed up the process. President Joe Biden has announced a new COVID-19 vaccine goal of 200 million shots in the arms of Americans in his first 100 days in office. Meanwhile, the nation continues to mourn the lives of those who were killed in the Georgia and Colorado shootings, with now President Joe Biden calling for a stronger gun law and a need for new legislation. This is happening while we continue to see unaccompanied children crossing the US-Mexico border. We have today much on all this, so let's begin the Sunday morning episode of Vision of Asia and just take a look at the headlines. Gun violence, a public health crisis, featuring political commentator Rohit, Vyas, New Jersey. Dr. Mishal, Reja on coronavirus updates and measures, New York City. Mayoral candidate Mahesh Bhagia fundraiser raises over $100,000 in Edison, New Jersey. Srimad, Rajchandra, Love and Care USA hosts Hunger Relief Food Drive, Long Island, New York. Launch of Asian Pacific American Voice Redistricting Task Force, Queens, New York City. South Asian Americans rally against Asian hate crimes, Edison, New Jersey. Time for a short break. Stay with us on Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Aditi Lama and this is Vision of Asia, top picks of the week for South Asian News segment. Let's take a look at coronavirus updates and measures. Many states are ramping up vaccinations and increasing eligibility. On vaccine, the U.S. Safety Board has expressed concern over AstraZeneca vaccine, which is waiting to be approved for use this week. The Safety Board has said that the company may have included outdated information in its latest vaccine trial. Meanwhile, Regeneron announced its monoclonal antibody cocktail reduces the risk of hospitalization and death from COVID-19 in high-risk patients. More on this and the impact of COVID-19 currently, we spoke with Dr. Mishal Reja. Here is Dr. Reja. As of now, in the United States, we are at 30 million cases almost and at least 543,000 deaths. Today in New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio said that New York City's workers will be finally going back to work on May 3rd, and that will be in person. So my first question to you is, when you look at these numbers and how large these numbers are, is it wise to now announce that we'll be opening up more in May?
You know, you're absolutely right with those statistics. And that question is great because it raises concern for a bigger picture that's going on. So I think what Mayor de Blasio is referring to when he talks about opening up these restrictions is cases are down overall. So since the peak in January, right now cases are down about 70%. Hospitalizations in the past month are down about 30%. And deaths overall are down. However, I think the reason your question is so important is because what we've been seeing nationwide, and especially in New York City, is that cases have actually been plateauing or going up. So we've eased lots of restrictions in the city. Right now, we have 50% capacity in restaurants, schools are opening, different shops are opening, and we're seeing this drastic uptick in cases, and we're seeing it in New Jersey too. So some of these efforts to increase openings, to get people back to work, we as physicians see the value in that, but it is a little too rushed. The city, Mayor de Blasio just recently issued a statement saying he's going to slow down or be more cautious about some of the reopening.
Right. And when you are looking at these numbers, Doctor, today CDC Director Dr. Walensky said that she is warning states that are in the Northeast and the upper Midwest, just like you just said, the cases are increasing. Who are the biggest contributor to these cases? And would you say the young population from age 20 to 40 are truly contributing to this?
That's such a good question. I think what CDC Director Walensky also said in that statement is that we're standing in a fork, and we can go down one road and we can go down another road. And right now, if we keep going down the road that we're going to get another fourth surge. So it's unclear about which demographic and which age group is contributing the most. But I will say that states like New York City, or cities like New York City, and especially Miami and Michigan, are contributing to the rising surge. So in Miami, we saw that they imposed an 8 p.m. spring break curfew because young people more and more are traveling, and they're bringing the disease there, they're giving it to each other, and they're bringing it back home. With that said, variants and easing of restrictions are typically contributing to the large increase, and a lot of young people are at fault for bringing those variants back home.
So what would you say to these states, Dr. Reja, that are currently loosening up, restrictions such as Texas, Mississippi, and many of the states are following? What do you say to them?
Too fast. I think that we live in the United States of America, and we have a separation of federal government, the CDC, the city government, and the state government. And while that has enormous benefits, what you see is some states are easing mask mandates, where it's so clear that the president of the United States, the top doc in chief, Dr. Fauci, the CDC director are saying, please stop. And it's just establishing a dangerous precedent. Look, aside from being a doctor, aside from treating patients with COVID, aside from, doing the rigorous training that all of us physicians had to do, I'm a son to my mom and dad. We're originally from Queens. Our businesses are in Jackson Heights. This just personally affects me. And I, just like you, don't want to see another fourth surge. We don't want to go back to it. I have so many stories, along with every other physician, of the deaths they've seen, the families who've lost loved ones, and nobody wants to go back to that. Right.
When you are looking at all of this, Doctor, European nations are going on strict lockdown. Germany just announced it. The UK has been on it. Do you see a lockdown happening in this nation if the cases keep on going up?
That's a great question. I do not personally see another lockdown happening. The reason that I don't see another lockdown happening is because right now we're at a race against time.
Right.
So what that means is we are one of the nations that are rapidly vaccinating people. So we have a 1 in 5 vaccination people in the country who've received a vaccine dose, which is amazing. So if we can speed up the vaccination process, we can actually get ahead of the variants that's causing this drastic rise in cases. Now, European countries are a little different because their restrictions were different, their vaccinations were different, and the rates of which they were vaccinating people were different. So as long as in the United States, we can get ahead of the variants, we can vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible, we're not going to see another lockdown like we've seen. But what we will probably see is an easing of restrictions. Is a stronger, slower restriction rollout.
Yes, hopefully what you were saying is true, because we really want to get out of this. Just talking on vaccines, Doctor, I have some questions here. Today, the U.S. Safety Board expressed concern over AstraZeneca, saying some of the information that they're sharing is outdated. Now, AstraZeneca also faced some issues where some nations have banned it because of this issue of blood clots. However, the World Health Organization has said to continue using it. How are you looking at all of this? Is there a chance it will get approved in the U.S.?
The FDA currently is undergoing a rigorous process with the AstraZeneca vaccine. And the way you posed that question was perfect, because what I think it characterizes is there's a lot of confusion right now with the AstraZeneca vaccine. And I completely understand the public being utterly confused and looking at it and saying, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to worry about it. There was the blood clots first. Now there's this confusion about the data. What's going on? So I think that the easiest way to make sense of it is under a rigorous review process, they did not find that there was a significant risk of blood clots. Sure, it happened with a small percentage of patients, but that wasn't something to be worried about with the vaccine. Now, with the old data, Dr. Jha from the Brown School of Medicine specifically said that he characterized it as this is a great vaccine with a really bad public relations rollout. And what that means is they weren't able to properly look at the data in a very stringent way. But until it gets to the FDA in the United States, we can rest assured that the FDA will look at all the evidence extremely rigorously before they even roll out this AstraZeneca vaccine. So if they roll it out, it's completely safe. We can trust the process. We have one of the most stringent review processes in the world. But I do think that right now we're at a good position where we have the Johnson & Johnson, we have the Pfizer, we have the Moderna. So if the AstraZeneca even comes out, that's not something that we need in this country exactly, because we're going to have more than enough doses for a lot of people, especially with our rollout. But it is something that we can look ahead towards.
In New Jersey, Edison's mayoral candidate, Indian-American Mahesh Bhagia, held his first fundraiser and raised over $100,000 in support for his campaign. Held at the Pines Manor, the state Democratic leaders came out in support for the Edison Democratic Organization, in which Mr. Bhagia received an endorsement for the mayoral run for this year. Here is the story.
I'm truly honored and humbled today for getting support from my big brother, Jay Anna, Praveen Anna, Guru Anna, and Ramesh Anna. They've been supporting me from day one. Every time I called them for the support, they said, Mahesh bhai, done. What do you need? What else you need? I became chairman of last year as a Democratic Party chairman. They always came and always supported me from the day one. So again, I thank and I am humbled again to be serving this community, and they are always with me. So please, any members for Thana also, you should feel proud because they are being represented. That your community and getting me involved is a great thing. Thank you so much.
Welcome ITV Gold and Parikh Worldwide Media viewers. Here we are at Mahesh Bhagia for Mayor's fundraiser at Pines Manor. This is an historical event, and this is going to be a historical election. We have our first potential mayoral candidate for Edison, New Jersey, one of the largest communities of Indians in the 5th largest township of New Jersey and the 1st largest in the county of Middlesex. So we want to make sure that, you know what, we have full support for Mahesh Bhagia. He is the chairman of the EDO as well, and he actually has been involved in politics for the past 12 years doing ground level work from grassroots committee men and committee women races to the point where we are at this moment, which is the chairman of the Edison Democratic Organization.
I am proud to be part of this team. This is the future of Edison Township, and I am absolutely certain that they will lead Edison Township onto greater and better things. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mahesh for years. He is a born leader, and he will unite this town and bring it forward.
We're excited to work with Mahesh, an excellent leader, a role model and mentor for us, and we're going to make sure that this town is unified and get our agenda done. We have a 0% tax increase this year, and we're going to push forward and make sure we win. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak, and thank you to the whole team.
I'm looking forward to making Edison a town that I grew up in, that I love. Working with these fine people, Shannon, Mahesh, Sparshall, and I look forward to making this town great as it could be.
Assemblyman said, this is the face of Edison. This is the right team for Edison. We're here to make a difference, and thank you all for coming. Thanks.
Everybody, looking forward to this Democratic line being strong, from Phil Murphy to Senator Pat Dagnan to Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak, Assemblyman Sterling Stanley, Mahesh Bhagia, McCann, Pang, and Patel. Straight down.
I'm running for the mayor because we want to make sure everyone's voice is heard and Edison residents are finally put first. We are tired of the political favors and the backdoor deals. There are three big reasons I'm running for the mayor of this town. Number one, our taxes are damn high. We all deserve better services and clean water. And we need open and transparent government. But I cannot do this alone. I'm truly blessed to be running with 3 council candidates who have track record of being leaders and active volunteers in the community. Only together with your help can we fix these issues and move Edison forward. Thank you all for your support, and a special thank you to the Pines Manor and the staff. We continue to support small businesses like Pines Manor throughout this pandemic. So thank you.
I'm truly humbled by Senator Dagnan and Assemblyman Rob Karabinchik and Councilman Joe Coyle coming here today to support our team. I hope we can live up to their expectations. They have been working as a public service for many, many years, and we hope we can follow them on their footsteps and serve the community with a greater good like they have been doing for many, many years. And I can tell you it's not an easy job. So again, big round of applause to them for doing this for many years. We are just getting started, so I hope we can do good for the community as well. Thank you.
Okay, I am Deepak Patel, and I am a great supporter of Mahesh Bhagia. He's the candidate of Edison mayoral candidate. So we would like to see that those who are the listeners should support, come out and vote. And if you are going to vote it, then we would like to request you to support Mahesh. Mahesh is a great candidate. He has a very good agenda to support not only Edison Township, but also total Indian community in New Jersey. And I would like to rest my request that please vote, support Mahesh Bhagia. Thank you.
My name is Anand Patel, and I know Mahesh from so many years. He is a community man, and he speaks less, but he delivers. So I just wanted to rest assure community that he is a community man, and please support him. And also let community know, all other your family, colleagues living in Edison, vote for him. Thank you.
Hi, this is Pradeep Peter Kothari. I am at one of the leading restaurant and banquet hall, Pine Manors in Edison, in a fundraising event for a leader, Mahesh Bhagia, who is running for a mayor in Edison from Democratic Party. Mahesh is a chairman of a Democratic Party of Edison, and I'm sure Indian American will contribute a lot more. They have already done a lot more, but next 30 years is going to be a Indian Americans' years, and they will prove what they can do for a main stream community. Thank you, Mr. Bhatti, and thank you, your chairman, Dr. Sudhir Parikh, for covering this event. Thank you.
On winning the Democratic nomination for Edison Township. I want to congratulate him and his entire team. I think Mahesh and the entire team has great ideas and can do very good for the entire town of Edison. We are behind Mahesh and we support him 110%, and he is going to be the voice for Edison, not only for the neighborhood, but also for the business owners. So please support Mahesh as much as possible and the entire team.
Welcome back. I am Aditi Lama, and this is Vision of Asia South Asian News segment, Top Picks of the Week. In politics and more, this week saw the tragedy of mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado, killing 10, which came less than a week after the Atlanta shootings, which killed 6 Asian Americans. Since then, grief and anger have sparked protests and a conversation over racism, misogyny, and gun violence. Discussing more on these shootings and the message it sends about racism and public safety, we spoke with ITV Go's senior political commentator, veteran journalist, Mr. Rohit Vyas. Here is Mr. Vyas. I'm talking about the shooting that took place in Boulder, Colorado. 10 people dead, including a police officer. The gunman opened fire at a grocery store, and currently we do not know the motive behind this shooting. This is happening less than 1 week after the Atlanta shooting at the spas, which killed 8 people, 6 of those who were Asian American. So before we go anywhere into this conversation, discuss what its impact is, my first question to you is, Do we or do we not have a problem of gun violence in this country right now?
The answer is obvious. We have a serious problem of gun violence. We've had it since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy back in the 60s, and subsequently his brother, the Attorney General at the time, Robert Kennedy, and many, many people after that, and many things would manifested themselves into mass shootings, such as at high schools, grocery stores, theaters, things like that. This has been going on far too long, and there is an endemic problem in society here involving gun violence. It's also indicative of the mental stability of many in society, something we need to look at very seriously, especially in light of this past year of cabin fever enforced by the pandemic around the world. There are people who have not been able to handle it, and we don't know what the motive was in the very latest shooting right now. It's being investigated, but all of this is coming together to a boiling point where we're going to have to figure out in society, do we really need so many guns, especially assault weapons, the type that was used in the Colorado shooting in the latest incident? Do we need things like this? Do we need to enforce a ban on guns altogether? What we need to do legislatively, it's being discussed right now. Ironically, Ted Cruz of Texas, who was speaking about this in the Senate, took the side of gun owners, not surprisingly. And the gun owners assert that it's not the gun owners themselves, it's not the weapon itself, but the person who uses that weapon. That is the issue, and that is the problem, which is true. But the problem is when you have the easy availability of weapons such as assault rifles, then who do you blame? Do you blame the fact that it's available easily, coupled with the mental stability of someone or the mental frame of someone who's intending to use it? What do? This needs to be examined very urgently in society.
And let me ask you, the Second Amendment is so important to all these gun owners, but is it worth taking a human's life? Why do we not have stronger background checks? Why is mental health not considered when somebody's given a weapon?
And that's exactly what President Joe Biden said today to reporters during a very brief interaction with reporters in a question-answer session, where he said precisely we've got to look at the loopholes into background checks. There are apparently plenty of them. People manage to get through those loopholes. They should not be owning guns. They should not be out there buying guns, and yet they manage to get their hands on them. There are many people who manufacture them illegally. Every single gun has to have a serial number so that it's traceable. Every bullet that's used has to have a number so that it's traceable, et cetera, et cetera. But there are loopholes, and many of these weapons don't have it. And background checks, very important. That's why I talked about mental stability, mental frame of mind. You've got to find out if somebody is mentally able to handle owning a weapon. And for what purpose? To what purpose? Is it for sport, which is what ostensibly many of them say, for hunting, things like that? Or is it just to keep it for the sake of holding the privilege of holding a weapon? I would be very afraid of that if someone wants it just for the privilege of owning a gun, because you never know what can happen to you later in life or even early enough in life where you might suddenly lose your mental balance and decide, okay, I have this weapon, I want to use it, I'm upset with someone. There are a lot of things to be thought about very, very carefully in this matter.
Right. This was the 7th shoot in the past 7 days of mass shootings. The last administration also saw a lot of mass shootings. Do you think President Trump is to be blamed for his support for the guns for some of this?
I think legislators, politicians are all to be blamed, from all parties, from everywhere. They are to be blamed for this situation. It's been for decades. It's not something new. President Trump is just one individual who's spoken out in his favor. But any number of politicians from all sides of the aisle have supported owning weapons, have done nothing about gun control over the years, despite the escalating violence involving guns and weapons. Nobody's done anything, and much of that was to be blamed on the lobbyists, the gun lobby. Extremely strong. Everybody in the gun lobby industry has a vested interest in not having any restrictions on the ownership of guns. And it's just every single leader that is responsible, not just one, but every one of them. And I think President Joe Biden, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, today have taken some important steps in trying to see what they can do. As long as they have, the Democrats have a majority in the House of Representatives and at least a 50-50 divide in the Senate, if they can do something to finally bring some kind of order on this issue.
Right. We can certainly say that there are certain groups who are truly obsessed with the Second Amendment. They really want these guns. Have you ever thought about why, owning a gun is so important even now, even when we've seen so many mass shootings because of it?
It goes back to the Second Amendment, which is the basic right to own guns, and it goes back. Well, that was something that was drafted in the early days of the Republic and the early days of the Constitution being written and formed, etc., and put into law, as it were. And much of that had to do with everybody owning weapons at that time. There was a civil war. There were the Southerners, there were the Northerners, you had the British, you had the French, all kinds of things happening at that time. Weapons were very much an integral part of soldierhood, defending your territory and that type of thing. I believe it's outdated, and I think we have to rethink in the modern world of where we draw the line. Certainly assault weapons. Why would a normal person want an assault rifle? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I've spoken to gun owners, and some of them own assault rifles, and I've asked them that question. I said, why would you want an assault rifle? Oh, it's just fun. It's great to hold. But why is it great fun to hold an assault rifle and use it? Where do you use it? If you don't use it to hurt someone or a living creature, where do you use it? Oh, in sport. Go out there and just fire at a range or whatever. And some people claim they get a kick out of doing that, and therefore they have the right to own such weapons. I personally am I am all for strict gun control laws. I know it's not a popular stance to take, but that's my own opinion. It doesn't mean everybody else should follow what I say, but that's my own opinion. And I don't know if we can change that thinking. However, if there is some kind of a compromise where we say, okay, a certain number of weapons which have far-reaching consequences in terms of the grievous injuries they can cause, the fatalities and things like that, we need to rein those in. I think that would be a good start, at least to get the conversation going.
More on the impact of the Atlanta shootings. 6 out of 8 victims who were killed were Asian American women in Georgia, leaving their friends and families behind. Since then, we have seen nationwide protests and rallies against Asian hate crime, calling for racial justice and equality for all Asian Americans. The pandemic has seen a double of Asian American hate crimes in the country, where many are being discriminated against because of the origin of the coronavirus. Asian Americans are crying for their community's representation and safety. Stop Asian Hate is the motto here, and standing in solidarity with the victims of the shooting. On this, in Edison, New Jersey, South Asian Americans and the Greater API, Asian American Pacific Islander community, came out to rally against Asian hate crime. Here is the story.
Is now. Never again is now. Never again is now. Never again is now.
This is Mahesh Bhagia, the chairman of the Edison Democratic Organization, along with my vice chair, Peng Chen here. We are here to support the rally, to do a peaceful rally here in Edison, located by the H Mart on 27, to support all the brothers and sisters and make sure that we are all united and we are here and stay peaceful here. No hate for anybody, and just peace and love. Thank you.
My name is Peng Chen. I'm the vice chair of the Edison Town Democratic Party. I'm here to support the people. I think that America is a great country. We should no hate. Should be peace. Every nation, should be all together. Yeah. Thank you.
Hate is a virus. Hate is a virus. And racist violence. And racist violence.
And racist violence.
We will not be silent.
We will not be silent.
We will not be silent.
We will not be silent. For hate. For hate. For hate.
We belong here.
We belong here.
We belong here.
We belong here.
Hi, my name is Jerry Shi. I'm the school board president. I'm here for the rally against the Asian hate, and this thing has to stop. And we're part of the community, and we contribute to the community. We are not a virus. Racism is a virus. Thank you very much.
This is Shannon. I'm the current school board member. I'm also running for city council. I'm very glad that we have such a crowd here to support this rally. We have to work together. Everybody in this community has to work together to make our voice louder. Thank you.
Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate! And racist violence! And racist violence! We will not be silenced! We will not be silenced! Stop Asian violence! Stop Asian violence!
Let's take a look at the APA Voice, the Asian Pacific Americans voting and organizing to increase civic engagement. Recently in Queens, New York, APA Voice launched its Redistricting Task Force. This task force consists of 14 leading Asian Pacific American groups to ensure fair and equal access to power and the representation of the 14% of Asian Americans from New York City. Here is the story.
With the Chinese Progressive Association, came from Manhattan. So founded in 1977, the Chinese Progressive Association is based in Manhattan's Chinatown, Lower East Side. Our community began in the historic core on streets like Mulberry and Mott, west of the Bowery's kitchen supply stores. East of the Bowery, you would see Latino, Jewish, and some Chinese residents. Bowery was the dividing line for all political districts at the time. The 1980s wave of new immigrants brought in new Chinese residents who settled into the Lower East Side, east of those kitchen supply stores. That became an area of Chinese, Latino, and Jewish residents living side by side. The historic core, Mulberry and Mott, remained the home of longtime Chinese residents. In time, the community became more involved with voting and civic engagement. When choosing candidates for a local office, some voters chose from one set of candidates, while others chose from another. When community members sought services from elected officials, some went to one, while others went to the other elected official. It all depended upon which side of the Bowery you lived on. This resulted in each elected official hearing from half of our community and therefore not realizing the full impact and magnitude of an issue. So during the 1990 census, because many residents were not experienced with the census, we helped them to get counted. The final census results of that year showed what we had observed for a number of years, that the community was split into two districts, resulting in its voice being diluted. At the 1990 redistricting hearings, we advocated for districts that would reflect the reality of the area. Those efforts were successful, resulting in the community no longer being divided along the Bowery. Since then, CPA has been involved in redistricting every 10 years at every cycle. We also have been a member of APA Voice since its inception. And as our community evolves, our involvement will help us continue our work towards advocating for keeping communities of interest intact. Thank you.
In John had mentioned, we're here for a reason in Elmhurst. There are a series of areas as a result of the 2010 redistricting that resulted in cracked districts.
Hi everyone, so Chaya CDC is a community-based organization located in Jackson Heights. We serve the South Asian and Indo-Caribbean community in Queens to build housing stability, economic well-being, and political power. Chaya has been providing direct services for over 2 decades for the community in Jackson Heights and the surrounding neighborhoods, which includes Elmhurst. Through our direct services on affordable housing and our long-time civic engagement, we understand how challenging it has been for neighborhoods like Elmhurst and Jackson Heights to find leadership that accurately represents the communities that live there and support their shared interests. We need to elect a leader who will champion affordable housing and immigrant integration. Elmhurst is a classic example of a neighborhood divided into multiple districts. For instance, you want to point to it? For instance, to the north, Jackson Heights, we see that in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, we have a strong South Asian immigrant base and a mix of Punjabi, Bengali, and Nepali immigrants who share many socioeconomic issues in common.
The pink area is the Asian American community area. Okay, go ahead.
With the overwhelming majority being renters. And even homeowners are facing challenges to not be priced out of their homes because of increasing gentrification. Many residents of both areas work as construction workers, taxi drivers, and restaurant workers. Yet the Asian immigrant community is split between Jackson Heights and Elmhurst into 2 different assembly districts. If combined, they will have a united voice to elect leaders who will advocate for affordable housing, language access, and economic justice. After decades without political representation, it's hard for our communities to have their voices and needs heard.
So you just want to point out like the multiple districts that Elmhurst is divided into.
Sure, so there's Elmhurst right over here, and then we have Jackson Heights. Most of the pink areas are largely Asian Americans, right? Both South Asian and East Asian. And then there's other parts when you look at East Elmhurst as well, and Woodside, where there's a large population that could potentially also be combined into a majority of Asian districts.
In 2010, data shows that out of the 319,000 people, 33% were Asian Americans. And if you look at the citizens of voting age population for SD11, it was 218,290. And out of that, 26 were Asians who were able to vote. Now, if you look at the 2017 report, it shows the total population of Asians rose to around 41%, right? And in terms of the Asian citizen voting age, that also rose to 32%. So in highlight, we saw about 7.7% increase in the total Asian population and 6.3% increase in the Asian citizen voting age for SD11. For SD16, Senate District 16, out of the 319,113 people, 53% were Asians. The citizen voting age were about 40%. Now, if you look at 2017, that number also rose, right? The total population being around 57%, and the Asian citizen voting age was around 45%. So, in Senate District 16, there was about a 3.7 increase in the total Asian population and a 4.4% in Asian citizen voting age. So in general, Asian population has rose in the past, X amount of time. So I want to leave you with just 3 simple points. Number one, it's that the Asian American population is growing. The data obviously shows that, and it will continue to do so. And number two, the current lines for SD 11 and 16 are simply outdated, right? Given the growth in the Asian American population, it's not too far-fetched to say that, in the future there might be a possibility where additional districts can be there, where we can elect a candidate of our choice. It's a very good possibility. And lastly, it is crucial that we draw these lines using data that is accurate, up-to-date, community-focused, right? and that we make sure to keep our communities and our interests together and whole for the next 10 years. So that's why we're doing this work.
Now we're talking about redistricting, but building political power in New York City is also a form of immigrant justice. My name is Mohammed Kiwamin. I'm the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project. Founded in 2015 in response to anti-LGBTQ hate violence, the Caribbean Equality Project is a community-based organization that advocates, empower, and represents Black and Brown LGBTQ Caribbean immigrants. Through public education, community organizing, civic engagement, storytelling, and cultural and social programming, the Caribbean Equality Project's work focuses on advocacy for LGBTQ and immigrant rights, gender equity, racial justice, immigration and mental health services, and ending hate violence in the Caribbean diaspora. In response to the financial crisis and food insecurity in 2020, we organized 12 pop-up food pantries serving over 7,000 immigrants with culturally responsive groceries, sexual health products, PPEs, hygiene products, and COVID-19 testing and resources in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. For the past 5 years, the Caribbean Equality Project civic engagement work has focused on building political power through voter education campaigns, co-hosting candidate forums, and voter education. This year, our civic engagement work includes redistricting because we understand what it means to be excluded while experiencing housing discrimination and employment disparities. In 2020, for the first time in history, the census had a question to count same-sex couples or households. However, this data will be severely inaccurate in counting Asian, South Asian, and Indo-Caribbean same-sex couples. Many Asian and Indo-Caribbean cultures, queer and trans people are still fighting for family acceptance, while forced by many to exclude their partners. And a lot of this is also done because of the fear of family rejection, family abandonment, and family discrimination. By being involved in redistricting, we are not only giving a voice to our LGBTQ siblings, we are giving a voice to all Indo-Caribbean people that have been sidelined and excluded from the decision-making process. New York City is home to both the largest South Asian and Indo-Caribbean diasporic populations, a contributor factor to New York City's economy, language, and cultural diversity, and a growing political power machine. Due to British colonization, Indo-Caribbeans whom are of South Asian descent were forced into indentured servitude by unfair contracts and lack of language access. After surviving decades of displacement, class struggles, ancestral traumas, and harm, the Indian diaspora has used their voice, bodies, and music and other interdisciplinary mediums to preserve religious traditions and culture, including here in Queens. In New York City, the Indo-Caribbean population has grown exponentially in Queens and the Bronx. Richmond Hill, also known as Little Guyana, is home to the largest Indo-Caribbean community, with Castle Hill section of the Bronx coming in second in New York City. Unfortunately, the census data will not accurately reflect the total Indo-Caribbean population in New York City. This complex history of belonging and migration have led to inaccurate census counts because some Indo-Caribbeans were forced to classify themselves as Asians, while some selected other on government documents. Due to this complicated history, there are disparities with locating the total number of Indo-Caribbeans in New York City. In Assembly District 87 in the Bronx, the 2019 American Community Survey data shows the Asian population is 11%, and other category is at 8. We expect that there will be an increase in the Asian population in Assembly District 87 when the census data is released. The Bengali and Indo-Caribbean community should remain in the same district because they share a common history, are primarily renters, and have other socioeconomic factors in common, such as higher rates of poverty and working class occupations.
Founded in 1976, our chapter is a New York affiliate of OCA, Asian Pacific American Advocates, a national civil rights organization dedicated to advancing the social, political, and economic well-being of Asian Pacific Americans in the United States. Last year, our chapter was involved in the APA Voice Census Complete Count workshops, co-sponsored candidate forums in Queens, and led a community hate crime prevention project with a diverse cohort of youth across the city. Our chapter has also engaged the broader APA community in several voter education events, voter registration drives, and testified in front of City Council regarding language access. Since civic participation is one of our chapter's founding goals, we believe public involvement in redistricting is critical for ensuring that our voices of all ages are heard in the map drawing process. Our chapter was a founding member of Accord in the 2010 redistricting cycle. I wasn't here, I was still in middle school, but I applaud you all for your amazing work. Thank you for paving the way. But now, during a time of political awakening of many young people in our community, we have an opportunity to educate and mobilize the next generation of Asian American leaders in our community. We have an opportunity to let them know that what we do today, or rather what we draw now, will impact our future for the next 10 years. That is why I am so excited to announce the task force's educational digital campaign, #OurVoiceOurMaps.
You know, one of the reasons why APA Voice was so involved in the census is because we understand that counting every person within our community decides how our district lines will be drawn, and that will determine how much power our communities will have. And you know, every 10 years our district maps are redrawn due to, you know, population changes. And you know, a lot of times our communities do not understand the importance of, you know, why this political process is so important, besides, you know, just going to the booth and voting. So, you know, we need to, and it will determine what our political power as Asian American communities will be for the next 10 years. So funding the Independent Redistrict Commission is the key to ensure our communities will have a fair and accurate redistricting process. The commission would draw new district lines for the New York State Assembly, the State Senate, and the House of Representatives. And when the maps are drawn incorrectly, we know districts can be easily gerrymandered by partisan actors, whether they're Democrats or they're Republicans or by money interest. So it is important that we do fund the Independent Redistricting Commission, and they need at least $4 million. And yet the Independent Redistricting Commission has to receive the $1 million to even begin doing their work. So we ask that the governor and the state legislature to fully fund the Redistricting Commission as quickly as possible to make sure that this important work gets done right now. We are requesting to meet with the commissioners, and we will also be testifying in the 5 boroughs to ensure that our communities do not get split up and they stay together. And, you know, we have representatives that represents all our interests.
Let's now take a look at Srimad Rajchandra Love and Care USA. The nonprofit offers services and brings joy to the lives of the underserved sections of the society. Guided by Pujya Gurudev Shri Rakesh Bhai, the organization's holistic, multi-pronged community support and development programs are by empathy, love, and care of highly motivated volunteers. These volunteers recently came together to host a hunger relief food drive in Long Island, New York, and gave about 10,000 pounds of food for communities in need. Here is the story.
Srimad Rajchandra Loving Care, or SRLC, is an organization that's focused on serving others. We're driven by our spirituality to serve others in need, because it's this service that truly makes us human. No one represents this spiritual and service connection better than Reverend Kim and the Helping Hands Rescue Mission. And we salute the people like Kim who give their time, energy, and resources to reduce these numbers.
Love and Care, thank you for all that you do. And I know we've had, it's 4,000 pounds here, but this is just one instance of the great things you do, because, we were down a few blocks at St. Hughes donating masks a while back. Know that we're always here to support your mission and everything that you do to Ms. Vore and everyone. Thank you. Always keep in touch. We're always here to support you. And it's great that I'm here with my other colleagues in government, our Receiver of Taxes, Jillian Guthman, and also Councilman Smith's aide, Chrissy, who joined us today.
So just wanted to thank all of their dedicated volunteers for this generous donation. Coming to Huntington Station, right in the heart of Huntington, and we're at the Helping Hand Rescue Mission run by Reverend Kim and her very dedicated staff and volunteers, and it's really going to go to very good use right here. Especially during this pandemic, many people are facing food insecurity. So we just want to thank the mission for all that they do and working along with the community, and just want to thank everyone for the generous donation today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your donation today of rice. You would not believe, but that is something that we really need in this community. We are the Gerald J. Ryan Outreach Center. We provide food and clothing and other essentials to families in the community. And your donation today will help us feed the over 1,000 individuals that come to us every month. As you see, we're still wearing masks, so we're still in this pandemic, but we know that we're not alone. So with that said, we say to you, continue to do all that you do, continue to give back, and we say to you, stay well, and God bless.
Thank your organization for the beautiful donation. God bless you all. We serve a lot of people here at St. John of God Outreach. A lot of families, 300 or 400 families in a month, and this will be a big help.
Well, this wraps up our show with the top picks of the week. Please send us a suggestion and get your voices and organizations on our show. Email us on events@itvgold.com or follow us on Facebook at itvgold. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for free access to many of our popular shows. Thank you for joining us tonight from Queens, New York. This is Vision of Asia, and I am Aditi Lamba. Take care and be well.